Hey everyone, it's Hazel West. I'm here with my October reading wrap up. I actually got to read quite a few more books than October than I expected to, so I ended up reading 9 novels, and some of them were really, really long, so I was really surprised that I ended up getting through as many as I did. Um, so October was kind of like my gearing up to NaNoWriMo month. And since my Nano project this year is a World War II era story, I decided that I would read some good World War II novels to kind of get me into the feel of it. So I had a lot saved up because I knew I was going to want to do that eventually. The first book I picked up was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This one, obviously, this was like the talked about book back in I think 2014. So it's been a long time, and I haven't gotten around to reading it until now. My friend Mara read it back when it came out, I think, and she really liked it, and said that I should read this one. Um, so yeah, this is based off of two storylines. The first is I'm gonna have to look at names because I can't remember. Mary Laurie, is a young French girl who's blind, and her story follows like um, kind of the French occupation. The Nazi occupied France. That's where hers are set. Her story is set. Um, and the other one is the boy Werner, who is a young German boy, and um, he was an orphan, and he grew up with his sister in kind of a foster home. But he was really good with mechanics and fixing radios and stuff. So he was recruited by the Nazis so that he could do all the radio work and stuff. Um, of course, he was also like the perfect Aryan specimen, like really blonde hair, blue eyes, all that. But so yeah, that's the characters, and um, essentially like this book was actually a lot different than I expected it to be. Um, Not that that was a bad thing. I still enjoyed it. Um, I wasn't quite sure what to expect from this one, to be honest. But I really ended up enjoying both the characters and getting to see their storylines play out. And this I think I really really like the narrative style in this book. How it kind of goes back and forth between um, the like a scene um, during the bombing at the end of the occupation, um, and then like kind of going into more backstory along the way. So, but I really liked I think my favorite parts of this were it was a character driven story, and I really liked the character development between both the characters. Werner definitely he went through quite a bit of character development, just kind of trying to figure out where he fit in, and of course he had a lot of like issues with the Nazis and kind of like figuring out what he actually felt about that. And I like that. I always like it when they illustrate that not all the people and not all the German soldiers were necessarily bad people, because a lot of them were just, it was compulsory essentially to join the German army. You didn't really get a choice, and they weren't all horrible Nazis. So, but Mary Laurie's storyline too, she was just a really really good character. She was just quietly strong, and I love heroines like that. I also really liked the relationship she had with her great uncle, who was a soldier from World War I who suffered from PTSD and all that. And that was really well done, I think, because they kind of helped each other. Plus, there was like a kind of an odd side plot about a cursed diamond. It was essentially like the Hope Diamond. So it was kind of interesting. I wished that it had been in here more, because a lot of times I would like kind of forget about that until it was mentioned again, and I was kind of unsure about where that was going, and where it actually went at the end. But anyway, that was the only real complaint I have. The end was really good. I liked how it brought it like into the present day. I think that's kind of cool when they do that with historical novels sometimes. Depending, like in this one it worked. It doesn't always, but this one it did. But anyway, so I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and I recommend this to you if you haven't read it yet because it is worth reading. I think, and even though it's long, it actually doesn't take that long to get through because there's a lot of short chapters. Okay, so after that, I picked up Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys, I think is how it's pronounced. This is another one that was highly recommended by my friend Mara. It's been one that I wanted to read for a long, long time. An absolutely gorgeous book. I can't. This was just. This one was about the kind of the genocides and stuff in Poland, I think, before, yeah, before, before, like, a lot of the other camps were made up, and, yeah, like, I didn't get a chance to research much into this, although I would like to eventually, because it's kind of a little known aspect of the war, but I can't research it right now because it doesn't really play into my book, but I would really like to look into this more, because, I mean, this book is kind of an eye-opener as to, like, a lot of stuff we did not know was really going on during the war as well, but it was just beautifully written. The characters, I can't remember her name, Lena, was a great protagonist. I really liked her devotion to her family and to her brother, and she was very strong. I mean, when you would expect her to be, anything but. So she was just, it was an inspiring book, to say the least. And just absolutely heart-wrenching, but it was realistic. I mean, it was fantastically realistic, but in a way that it was not gratuitous too, which I totally like. That really, because people can be like so gratuitous with like the violence and all that aspect, but this was actually very low-key in my opinion, which I think made it even more realistic. And anyway, I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. It was just a really, really good book. And I look forward to reading more of Ruta Sepetys' books because that was actually the first one that I read. After that, I picked up Wolf by Wolf by Ryan Graudin. This was one I've had my eye on for a while. It's not strictly historical fiction. It's actually kind of historical sci-fi alternate history. Which is, it was a really interesting book and so different. Like, I didn't really know what to think about it when I first started it. I was like, okay, that's weird and weirder, but then, when I got into it, I was like, man, this is a really awesome book. Essentially, this is like an alternate reality where the Nazis won World War II. So, pretty much everyone is still, like, living under Nazi occupation. The main character is a girl. I'm gonna drop it. What is her name? Okay, Yale, who was a Jewish girl. And she was taken to a camp when she was young and used for the experimentations that the doctors did there. And there was this experiment that was supposed to make people look Aryan, like every person, because obviously even the devoted Nazis who had like brown hair and stuff didn't wanted to be like the perfect blonde hair, blue-eyed people. So anyway, it turns out the experiment worked on Yale, but it also had a side effect that no one expected, and that was that she can essentially skin shift. She can, like, look at a picture of someone and become them. So that was, like, really, really awesome, I thought. So essentially she uses that power to take on the persona of a German girl who won this motorcycle race from Berlin to Japan that the Reich does every year, to honor like the like kind of the peace treaty between Germany and Japan. So Yale takes on her persona to run the race in her place, and so she'll get a chance to talk to Hitler at the end and essentially assassinate him. So what about that is not awesome? But this was a fantastic book. Yale was a great character. I really liked her. She was a fantastic, strong heroine. I really like the supporting characters as well. Because essentially because you really weren't sure where they were going to stand by the end. And this was just awesome. Like, the alternate reality was awesome. I just really, really liked it. And it ends on a really big cliffhanger. So it was actually fortunate because the first book actually came out November 1st. So I ordered it and I'm hoping to read it in November. So that was lucky that it came out right after I finished this. But yeah, so definitely a really interesting alternate story, and I really look forward to seeing where it goes from here. It was a little slow, like, for me to get started, but once I got into the story, I was, like, really into it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, I think, at the end. After that, I finally picked up The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. Another one that's been on my list for, like, ever. Yes, I read this book, and I cried a lot, and I really love this. This is, like, seriously one of my favorite books. I don't even know if I'll be able to sum it up, to be honest. This is now one of my favorite books, though. It's just fantastic. It's, just the narration style is amazing. Like, the fact that it's told from Death's point of view. I mean, no one does that. That's, like, so cool. And also because Death was just a really awesome character. Or at least I thought he was. Because, I don't know, I felt for him. Like, he had just a very interesting role in this story. But I don't know, it was just so good. Like, I can't really even sum this up, to be honest. But one of the best World War II stories I've ever read. And it was just so sad in places, but it was an amazing story. The Book Thief, as I will call her because I can't remember her name right now because I'm just that terrible. If you're gonna steal something, it may as well be books, right? But yeah, like, it was just, I loved all the characters. It was fantastic. So obviously this was a 5 out of 5 star one. I'm just really, really glad I picked it up. I love how Markus Zusak is just able to, like, really portray emotions very well. Like, even in some of his, I've read some of his earlier books, previously, and even then, like, he's just really good at writing emotions and, character development, I think. Like, he's definitely a character-driven author, which I always respect. But yeah, fantastic, and, like, definitely one of a kind. This is one of those talked about books that actually deserves to be talked about, so, anyway, really glad I got to pick that one up this month.